What do you do when no one is around to hear you call for help? What do you do when there's nowhere to run? Everyone has a fear of what's in the dark at some point in their lifetime. However, sometimes the scariest thing isn't the creature that's under the bed or in the closet, but the friendly neighbor next door. You know the one. They always smile and wave, but what's really hiding behind that smile? What if it's an aunt or an uncle? Maybe even the ice cream man. Here's 3 stories of some creepy people. Random guy kept calling. From Jen. I'm posting this for my coworker, with her permission. This is told from her point of view. I never had to talk to this person myself, but you can basically hear everything in the office. So this happened at work, my first real job. I work with some great ladies. The oldest we call Mama Bear because she literally treats us like family. Our job is customer service, and sometimes we get prank calls. Mostly harmless, but it can get scary. Mama Bear once had a guy calling her saying his internet was broken and he was going to run her over unless she fixed it. Pretty sure it was a user error. Well, a few days ago I got a call. "Hello, thank you for calling. How may I assist you?" Silence. "Hello?" No answer. So I hung up. A few seconds later, another call. Same thing. We don't have caller ID on our office phone, so we have no way of knowing if it's the same person. Next day, same thing. After the third call, finally the person, a man, says something.
"What's your name?"
"What?
"Your name. What is it?"
Do you need tech assistance?"
"I'm Pete."
"Do you need tech assistance, sir?"
"I need you. You're a goddess. I'll call you later."
And he hung up. Creepy, but I brush it off and joke about Weird Pete to my coworkers. They laugh and I get dubbed the almighty goddess all day. Next day, a fellow coworker gets a call from Pete. He gives his name and says he wants to speak to the goddess. Yeah, I already told him about Pete, and now here he is again. He couldn't ask for me by name as I never gave it to him, but it's pretty clear who he wants to talk to. My coworker puts him on hold and tells me he wants to speak to me. I'm getting weird vibes and shake my head. She tells him I'm not there today, and he goes from 0 to 100 real quick, screaming at her for lying, calling her racist, derogatory words for just about every skin color. She's white, but he doesn't know that, and he hangs up. The phone rings again, and I pick it up because we are a call center and it's my job. I wish I hadn't. "Hello, thank you for calling."
"It's you. Don't hang up."
I'm frozen and stay silent.
"I know it's you. I'd know you anywhere. I need help."
"You need tech help?"
"No. It hurts."
"Sir, this isn't 911. We're a tech call center. We can't help you if you're injured." At this point, Mama Bear overheard the conversation and walks over. We have a speaker option on the phone, which she activates. His words ring out over the office.
"It's throbbing. I need you, goddess."
Now, where I live, you can work starting at 16 and earn school credits as part of their program. I had just turned 16 a few months prior. Though I was 16, I knew where this was headed and decided enough was enough. "Sir, I can't help you. Please don't call here again." And I hung up. At this point, Mama Bear said if he called again to transfer him to her phone line. Not even 30 seconds later, guess who calls? And yeah, I picked it up. I mean, I still do have to do my job. And again, no caller ID. "Hello?"
"Talk to me, goddess. I'm so close."
I transfer him to Mama Bear, her voice carried out over the entire office. I can't remember her exact wording, but I'll paraphrase as best as I can. "Listen here, you predator. You are harassing a minor. We have caller ID. I'm giving this number to the police, you effing limp dick." Yes, she did say that. "If you ever call here again, I will personally see to it that your baby carrot meets the sharp end of my switchblade." Again, paraphrasing, but I think I remembered all the key points. She hung up. So far, he hasn't called back. I'm sure there might be a way to get caller ID or see the number somehow, but I decided to turn the issue over to management and let them deal with it. So, Creepy Pete, who harassed me over the phone at work, let's never meet. Weird guy trying to get into my apartment. From Anonymous. So, I'm originally from Texas, but for college, I have decided to move to Paris since I am half French and have always had a French education. I moved into Paris about 3 years ago. I live in a pretty normal neighborhood and in a normal secured building. So what I'm about to tell you happened 2 years ago. I was chilling in my apartment and I wasn't doing anything special when suddenly I heard someone knocking on my door. Now, I wasn't expecting anyone since I am a young woman living on her own. I had no intention whatsoever to open the door. Nevertheless, the knocking kept going on, and I heard the person was also knocking on all my neighbors' doors. There are 4 other apartments on my floor. I thought that maybe there was some kind of emergency, and I was getting really annoyed by the relentless knocking. So I opened the door and saw a man standing there in front of me. He was approximately 5'9" and was pretty chubby and looked 40-ish. He introduced himself as a new neighbor and said that there was a banging noise in the apartment above his, as if someone was moving furniture. I told him that it couldn't possibly have been me since I wasn't doing anything but watching TV. I then asked him which apartment he lives in. He said that he was in the one under mine and told me that he was a handyman and that if I needed anything, I should feel free to knock on his door. I thanked him and closed the door and kept on going about my day. The following months, I kept seeing him around nearly every day, but it wasn't weird or anything. One day, on my way up to my apartment, I crossed paths with him. After a small talk, he told me that there were many flooding problems in the apartment and that he needed to check mine. Again, being a woman living on her own, there was absolutely no way that I was going to let a stranger in. I politely told him that I will call my landlord if I have an issue. The guy gave me a weird look and told me, no, I have to look into your apartment, and it rubbed me the wrong way because of the tone of his voice. He insisted again, and to cut the conversation short, I told him that we will work this out another day because I'm exhausted. The following days, every time I crossed his path, he kept asking me when he could come in and check the drainage system. At this point, I got really angry. I told him that there was no need, and if there was a problem, my landlord would call me. After saying that, I walked away. I was so sick of this that I actively started to avoid him. The only way that I knew that I could freely walk out of my apartment without crossing paths with him was by checking if he was home or not. I had a pretty crappy technique that consisted of me leaning out of my window so I could see his kitchen. If the lights were on, he's home. Obviously, this wasn't super effective since no one turns on the kitchen lights in broad daylight, but that was really my only way of knowing. Now, skipping to this year, I haven't seen the guy again, but I knew that he still lived there, since I still noticed the lights of his kitchen going on and off, and the kitchen furniture hasn't changed. Fast forward to last month, I got in the elevator with a guy living in the building. Having a very slow elevator, I started small talk because I really hate awkward silence. I saw he had pressed the 4th floor button, and I asked him how long he'd been living in the building, and he said that it's been 5 years, and then we changed subjects. Finally, the elevator stopped at the 4th floor, and I saw him going to the apartment right under mine. I didn't think much of it until I arrived at my apartment, and thought that he's really nice, and then it clicked. He lived in the apartment right under mine for 5 years, so the weird guy trying to get into my apartment was not my neighbor. So yeah, creepy man trying to get into my apartment, let's not meet. The 5th floor, from 8-Bit Farmer. Back in my freshman year of college, I was a fairly trusting person and probably got myself into a lot of bad situations. I was pretty dumb and very lucky. However, there was one incident that will always remind me to have better situational awareness. I was walking back to my dorm from a class in the early evening, speed walking because I had another class at night and wanted time to relax beforehand. I had my earbuds in, listening to music, and I passed a very tall, broadly built guy on the sidewalk as I was coming up to my dorm. I only took notice of him for a second because he was walking rather slowly and taking up the middle of the sidewalk. I had to step off the grass to get around, but I don't think I did this rudely. I probably would have forgotten him entirely if the following events didn't occur. I crossed the street and walked up to my hall's entrance and swiped my key. They warn us not to allow others to tailgate because people unauthorized into the building can get in. No one followed this rule, and I didn't want to ever be rude and close the door on someone right behind me. That's when I noticed the guy I had passed earlier was close enough for me to let him grab the door and let himself in, which I allowed, thinking again nothing of it because it's something I always did. I lived on the 5th floor, which was a girls-only floor. The genders were separated by floors, so floor 4 and floor 6 would be the men's floors nearest to mine. He and I got on the elevator with a few other people. I pressed the button for the 5th floor and noticed he didn't press any numbers. That's fine. Maybe he was getting off on the floors before mine, like the others on the elevator. We stop at the 2nd floor and a couple leaves. He doesn't get off. We stopped again on the 4th floor, and the remaining person leaves. He stays, and we're alone. That's when I started to feel a bit funny. He wasn't standing too close or anything, but he seemed to be looking anywhere but at me as we rode up to the 5th floor. I did think it was odd, but it could be explained by mere coincidence. We stop on my floor and I leave first, relieved to leave the awkward space and continue on my way. Now, my hall was a Y-shaped building. Upon leaving the elevator, you either went left or right down 2 separate wings. I turned left as my dorm is about in the center of the left wing. That's when I noticed he was following behind me. And even when I picked up my pace, he kept up with me. Being taller, he wasn't exactly hurrying, but this is what really pushed my paranoia. It really felt like he wasn't walking on his own, with a destination in mind, and he could easily pass me if he wanted to. But no, he maintained a steady distance from me. I was being followed. I started to panic, and when I reached my door, I realized how empty my floor was at this time of day. He was going to reach me just as I opened my door, and that's when I decided it would be better to stay in a public space and scream if I needed to. I could also run further down the hall and down the stairs at the end of the wing. If I opened my dorm door, it would be too easy for him to come in, lock the door, and overpower me. I always kept my keys in my pocket, but as he approached, I instead swung my backpack off my back, so I could leave it if I needed to run, and fumbled around inside it as if I was searching for my keys. I don't know why I was trying to act cool, as if I wasn't scared, and that I wasn't opening my door because I was terrified of him. Especially since maybe he might pass me and actually be visiting someone further down the hall, and wouldn't I look silly then? That's when he stopped just 2 yards away from me, past all the other doors. Stopping at mine, he stood there for a moment, and I ignored him, hand fumbling uselessly around the inside of my backpack. I did not look up. And then he turned, walked back down the way he came, and I heard the elevator door open. Feeling safe to open my door without fear he might come charging back down the hallway, I hurriedly got inside and locked the door. I immediately called my mom just in case, needing to feel not totally alone since my roommate wasn't home. Later, I calmed down and waited until my roommate returned. I skipped my next class because I didn't want to walk in the dark. Initially, I had felt good about my quick thinking, but then I realized one really bad, important detail. I should have kept walking. I shouldn't have stopped at my door, because now he knew which dorm was mine. I haven't seen him since, but stranger who followed me back to my dorm when I was a freshman. Let's not meet. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, and subscribe if you want to hear more. If you would like to have your story narrated, you can send it to storiesofdarkness55@gmail.com. And as always, pleasant dreams.